am Dr. K.G. Hemalata, Professor and Head of the Department, Gnanashanker College of Engineering. I welcome you all to C.K Prahalad Lecture Series. C.K Prahalad Lecture Series is an interaction with industry leaders and intellectuals across the industry segments to share their experience for being lead businesses. The theme for today's talk is high-tech markets. High-tech markets operating on the cutting edge of technology and are reimagining their business models based on the nexus of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, cloud, analytics, mobile, and social. It characterizes innovation, agile product development, frequent product introductions, complex supplier relationships, complex networks of sales and marketing system, and smarter user interfaces. Today we have with us Mr. Gnanashanker, as Vice President Tech Mahindra. We call him with his sweet name Gnani. Gnani currently manages a portfolio of strategic accounts, infrastructure, and cloud services across Asia. Gnani was previously the head infrastructure and cloud services business for Tech Mahindra in Australia and New Zealand. He has a rich experience of over 20 years in the IT industry and has experience that spans markets across the APAC region. Under Gnani, the infrastructure and cloud business in Australia more than doubled in the last few years. Today, Techem has the highest market share in the ICS business in the region. Gnani started his career with the Global Telesystems, selling cutting-edge network solutions in the India market, and then worked with Hughes Network Systems, selling satellite communication technologies. His last stint before joining Techem was with HCL, and he spent 10 years there, running the infrastructure business in the North Asia and Greater China region. Recently, he has been involved in multiple large and innovative deals in the Asia market, crafting solutions for large corporations. He has been key in building differentiated and innovative commercial engagement models for customers. He is a leader with sharp focus in next generation technologies, with interest in automation, artificial intelligence, and robotics. Gnani is a speaker at various technology and industry forums and is a spokesperson for Tech Mahindra. He has won multiple awards from various technology partners and industry forums. He is a postgraduate in management, specialized in sales and marketing. He is an avid traveler and loves to spend his spare time visiting new countries with his family. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Gnani on behalf of Department of Management Studies, Gnanashanker College of Engineering. Welcome, Gnani, and thank you very much for accepting to address management fraternity amidst your busy schedule. I would like to hand over the session to our budding leaders, Mr. Rahul PR and Ms. Sangeeta. Over to you, Rahul and Sangeeta.
Dr. Hemalata, thank you very much for the very kind welcome and the nice words. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
All right, Gnani,
I'll ask you some questions. Yeah.
That's all right.
Could you talk to us about your career journey from industry consultant to vice president in Tech Mahindra? First, you share your journey.
Sure, Hips. Thanks very much. And thanks for the opportunity to speak to all of you guys. Management students have always been close to my heart, whether the management trainees now who work with me or who worked with me in the past. A lot of my own juniors still continue to work with me. And I go back to my institute almost every year. I don't know how many of y'all will continue to do that, but I do that. So therefore, anyone from sort of a management institute background has always been very close to me. And ironically, our institute used to be called DOMS as well. So there's quite a lot of commonality there. It's great to interact with all of you. Please feel free to stop me while I'm speaking. I absolutely have no issues with that. Ask me questions. Whenever you think you need something clarified, happy to do that. Let me kick off with what Hims asked me on where I started and how did I get here. It's been a pretty long journey, but interesting and fun-filled one. Uh, of course, right after we finished our MBA, and my aspiration was to be in the advertising world. Um, I started doing quite a little bit of print ads even when I was back in uni. Uh, Pretty much did it to make my pocket money. All that I wanted to make money for was to go with the friends and have the buffet at the Taj in Madurai. That's where we studied. It used to cost 200 rupees. I still remember that. And it was to make money to go to Taj. That was what we wanted to do. Post that, I always wanted to be a copywriter. That was the aspiration. In fact, my first job or offer was in an ad agency. I had quite a few seniors in the industry. I had a senior of many years who was general manager with HCL at that time in Chennai, and I'd done both my MBA projects with him. Him and my sales and marketing professor in college brainwashed me to take up an offer with an IT firm, not even with HCL, with an IT firm. And they said, hey, this is new age technology. You won't make money in advertising. So that's how I shifted. I never ever thought I was going to be a sales guy. But anyways, that's how my sales career started. It was a rude shock. I thought as a management graduate, I would walk into boardrooms, wear a tie, sitting in air-conditioned rooms and have discussions, strategize. It was none of that. I had to hit the road running. It was 15, 16 hours every day, 7 days a week. But that's how it started. And it was a great opportunity to learn. That's where I built my confidence. That's where you shed all your inhibitions, right? And you realize, irrespective of who you are, you're going to get stopped by the security guard at the gate. He's going to question you. You're going to feel ridiculed. You're going to feel, who are these guys to stop me? I'm an MBA graduate. I work for this big company, but at every stage, people are going to show you who you are. And that's how you learn. That's how you that's what you add to your experience, add to your self-confidence, and you just move on. Well, I did that for some time. Then I went ahead and did some more cutting edge stuff with Hughes. They were into satellite communications, as was mentioned. It was a lot of VSATs. I don't know how many of you all know what a VSAT is. It's the big umbrella that you see in above quite a few ATM locations where communication happens through the satellite. You will definitely not know, but then people who are from the 70s and 80s would know international calling would have a lag because voice would be carried over the satellite. And then you would say hello and wait for a second before the other person hears, and then they say hello. That's how your STD and ISD used to work. So a lot of that was based on satellite. So I was doing a lot of that. Went on to HCL, did a lot of that again. I've predominantly been an infrastructure guy today as well. When I say, I do infrastructure and cloud services, it's anything to do with data centers. If you know data centers, that's where your compute, storage, network is hosted, it's located. So whether it's a Microsoft Azure, an Amazon or Google or any of the banks, you go and build and operate out of a data center. That's sort of the heart of the IT operations. That's where the core lies. And anything to do with networks. When I say networks, it's circuits, internet, stuff like IoT, edge devices, edge computing devices, security, network security, end user devices. So you talk not only your laptops, your desktops, how they are secure, how they are built. They call them SOEs, how our SOEs built, how our applications built on top of those SOEs, how is security built around them, how are virtual desktops built. Nowadays with COVID, a lot of working from home, everyone's talking virtual desktops and how would you access that securely from remote locations, work from anywhere, those kind of concepts. That's pretty much sort of what I sell, anything to do with all of the infrastructure, which is sort of the underlying plumbing layer, if you can say that, for all of the other IT applications and the wonderful things that you see front end. This is the basement. This is uh, uh, what's underground. This is the plumbing. These are the cables and the nuts and the bolts. That's what I do. It's been a long journey, but it's been a fun journey. It's taken me around many parts of the world. It's allowed me to interact with different markets, different people, and learn from all of that experience.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon and good morning, everybody. So, I have a question for you. So, IT revolutionized over a period of time and has become a significant part of the contribution to the GDP. So, can you please share with us what changes you have looked in your 20 years of journey in the IT industry?
Thanks, Sangeeta. It's a pretty loaded question. I'm definitely not someone who can link GDP and what our contribution is to the GDP, but yeah, I can definitely talk to you about some of the changes that we are seeing, right? And the changes are extremely fast, and that's important to understand that change is constant, and you will have to change and learn constantly as well. What you earn in your institute would just be a gate pass for you to enter the industry, but thereon, it's all about learning. It's all about keeping pace with change. When I started my career in global telesystems, I used to sell email. Email was something that was a very expensive tool to have. For example, the entire of Ashok Leyland in Chennai would just have one email ID, ashokleyland.chennai.whatever.com, right? A Britannia in Bangalore would just have one email ID, and there would be a person sitting behind the computer who receives these emails, takes a printout, walks to the department, gives it to the person, right? It was just being treated as a fax and telex, and then there was email. That's how it was. And people used to pay by the size of data. It used to be per kilobyte of data costed X dollars. An enterprise like an Ashok Leyland, like a Britannia, like a Tata, would have a dedicated lease line to the service provider for their email servers. Does anyone know how fast your internet is at home today? The slowest possible? Okay, then I have to ask Rahul. Rahul, how fast is your internet at home?
So at my home, it pretty much runs with close to the 500 MB per second.
Right. So the dedicated high-speed link that an Ashok Leyland or Tata's had was 9.6 kbps. You would probably go walk up to the service provider and murder him if he gave you those speeds today, but that was what the enterprises had. And there used to be case studies. We used to invite those CIOs to our forums, and they would speak about this 9.6 kbps link that they had. So that was late 90s to now. That's forgotten. That's history. And that's how fast things have moved. One of the fastest lease lines between data centers in early 2000s that you could buy from a BSNL was 64 kbps. Right, a bank branch would have nothing faster than a 64 kbps. Today, you don't even buy that for home internet anymore. Right, when 56 kbps for your home internet came in, that was massive, but that was just the link speed. But then what the data that came through that used to be 5 and 6 kbps. You would click the download button, go out for lunch with your friends, come back, and you would have a 2-minute movie clip, right? From that to now, that's been the change. And like I said, it's important to embrace change. It's important to understand that you have to keep yourself constantly updated. And for me, that has worked, right? I'm not even an engineer. I was probably one of the 10. We had 60, 65 people in the class during our MBA, and I was probably one of those 10 guys, along with your HOD here, who were non-engineers. She had a pharmaceutical background. I had done my BBA. I had no clue on technology, but I had a lot of interest. Like I set up back in the day, the university got some funds, so I went and set up the first NT network. Windows NT used to be the networking standard. I set up the first NT network for our own labs. So I used to have that kind of interest, technology interest. Uh, uh, so I used to try and learn. When I got into the industry, it was technology. It was a technology industry. Later, the satellite communications world was even more technical. So all I would do was learn. I actually would. My younger sister, was in engineering. I would actually pick up her books and study communications technology. In fact, later when my sister was in the final year, I wrote her project thesis for her on satellite communication and how it works for business. And she scored the highest mark in Anna University at that time. From absolutely not knowing anything to technology to being able to write the project for an engineering course. And I learned most of it on the field. The customers would ask me questions. Unlike just being a standard sales guy, I would come back, sit with engineers, understand, pick up books and read. Unfortunately, we did not have an internet to go Google or learn up stuff on Wikipedia. It had to be self-interest. And that's where you grow as a sales guy. Is customers will always give deals to people they trust. They will want to work with a Rahul or a Sangeeta only if they felt that you will not fail them, that they can trust you, that if they signed a deal with you, you will service them well, you will make sure that his goals are met as an individual, as a business, and that you will work for them. To do that, you have to show knowledge. You have to be able to give him that trust. And the trust is only going to come where you show them that you know your stuff, that you are able to articulate to them that they will get the best product, best services that is available in the market. So there's just no second guesses to what's important. You have to learn. You have to keep yourself updated, like doctors do in their field. You have to keep yourself updated in the technology field, and it's just changing every day. Sorry about the long answer, but yeah, I hope it answered.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing with us. So, as we all know, we are facing a pandemic today, and this has a different effect on each of us. As a students, we are having online classes as a new normal, and few of them are forced from home, and few of them are being taken out of the job. Millions have lost the job. So, given this context, so if I can ask you, how do the IT look in the future, and is this something new normal? What we are saying we should be comfortable with in the future?
I think this is definitely the new norm. Um, uh, Things will always change. Something like the COVID has accelerated that change. And we've always thought about there will be new ways of working. This is only flipped that very fast, right? They've always, over the last few years, they've always been chat workspaces being built. If you took organizations such as ours, or any organization such as ours, banks, they've always been over the last probably for the last decade, they've been talking about knocking down cabins, no more cabins. It's about more open work culture, hot desks where you don't have a desk for yourself. You come into office, you find a desk, you sit down. But the target was more about achieving small efficiencies. It was more about having 0.7, 0.8 desks per person, where I try and have space savings, right? Power savings, cost savings. Therefore, now it's companies are announcing that up to 70% of their people can work from home, and that is going to be the new ways of working. But I do not think jobs are going to be lost. There's always opportunity in every problem, and I'll tell you what those opportunities are. For example, right, like I told you, virtual desktops have become a large requirement now. A virtual desktop still needs a lot of underlying compute power, storage power, network power. Security has become even more important because people are going to access from homes, from unsafe, unprotected internet links at home. How do I protect these links now? How do I protect these devices that people have at homes? People will use their own devices. How am I going to protect what could come through their devices? So internet security has become big. Virtual desktops and workspace technologies have become big, and therefore, when all of this is hosted on the cloud has become very, very big, even growing faster than what was anticipated. We are actually facing issues of non-availability of capacity. No one ever thought we'll hit that. Currently, I'm trying to get some clients space on Microsoft Azure, and we have to wait a few months because they've run out of capacity. So there is a lot of work that is there. There is a lot of so therefore we're developing new digital face-to-face selling solutions for people like insurance agents. It'll be solutions like earlier your LIC agent comes to you, says hello, opens a booklet, runs you through the various schemes that are available, does the calculation on a piece of paper, pulls out a whole bunch of documents for you to sign on. But that is not happening. Now customers are talking about how do we integrate video channels into mobile-based applications where they can engage with their customer. They can open up and share screens like we do now on Zoom and Teams. That they will be able to share these different calculators. They will be able to sell the policies, sign the policies. At the same time, for regulations and compliance, record those videos, record those conversations, store them for the next 7-10 years, whatever regulations say as proof. So we're building a lot of new such applications. So there's new digital application development, video security development, cloud, virtual desktop, security. So there's a gamut of new opportunities. So one door shuts and a few other new doors are opening. So this becomes the new norm. There are new opportunities. And I can tell you now that the sales funnel for me at least is so big that I don't have the bandwidth to sell, to address all of the requirements that are hitting myself and my team. So yeah, I have only a very positive outlook of the future. The growth is definitely going to accelerate, albeit will be completely new areas that we haven't thought about.
So now we would like to ask you about something the Tech Mahindra had made the achievements in the Australian market. So when you were working on the Australian market, and infrastructure and the cloud business in the Australian market has doubled. And also the Tech Mahindra enjoy the highest market share today. So could you talk to us about what is the so-called recipe for your success or the uniqueness about Tech Mahindra?
Again, pretty loaded question. Okay, I think the basics of sales and marketing, irrespective of the industry, is the same. We all sell different products. Target markets, target audiences are different. We'll all have different strategies, but the underlying fact remains: how do you differentiate yourself? How do you make yourself relevant to your customer and your customer's business? It's about how do you build trust? How do you showcase knowledge? That is one. And it's important that you find your USP and you're able to play to your strengths. Your USP just can't be any USP. It's got to be something that is also a strength to you, and you convert that into your USP, right? It's washing machine. Someone call it a tumble wash. Someone would call it an agitate wash. But you've got to find something that's different. And I think that's what we did. We on one side it was finding our differentiation. We found our differentiation in doing certain types of deals. We found our differentiation in constructing certain kind of commercial and financial offerings, cloud-like but a hybrid cloud sort of offerings. We also differentiated ourselves by telling ourselves that we'll be lean and mean, which is we will not work the traditional way where everyone does one type of work. We said everyone will do many types of work. So Gyani just wouldn't act like the boss and say I will only do reviews. I would roll my sleeves, get in, get dirty, and I would probably do Excel sheets and writing the proposal, writing the documentation, speaking to partners, while my technical architects would do 2 or 3 different things. So therefore, we would accelerate speed to market, response times, remain as a far more cohesive, coordinated team. So it was people, technology, identifying our strengths, bundling it, all of this, identifying a niche segment, a requirement in the market, and going after it. And I always keep saying this to many of our sales teams, and my own team was a case and is still a case study within Tech Mahindra on how to qualify, right? Just because a customer calls you and says he has a requirement, you don't go after it. And that was a conscious decision that we made. We will not go after anything and everything. Then what happens? You're doing too many things at a time. Then the 80-20 concept kicks in, right? 10 deals come in front of you. You work on all the 10 of them. You win 2, you lose 80. That's typically what the sales world tells you. The sales world, in fact, when you start, typically they'll tell you go for 100 calls. 10 out of the 100 calls will become opportunities, prospects. Focus on those 10, and then you will convert 1 into a deal. So 1% was definitely not a success or a win ratio that I was looking for. The fantastic win ratios are 30 or 40%. But what we were able to achieve was 80-90% plus. And the way we did it was by saying no to deals. We would run out after selective deals. We would qualify them hard. We will ask ourselves, why will we win this deal? Why will this customer give us the deal? And we would be very ferocious about it. We would tell ourselves why we would lose. And people within the team would have to convince each other on why we should bid, why will we win. And only if we saw the win ratio was good, would we decide to go after a deal. So same thing applies to anything or anyone, right? You have to choose the path that will give you the most success. It's all about choosing the right path that you want to take, where you will find more and more success. So your win ratio, possibility of winning is high. As long as you are able to identify that, as long as the goal is very clear to you, as the steps you need to take to reach that goal is very clear to you, you will get there. And that was pretty much the reason for success, being conscious about every step you take, being very clear about what the goals are, and being very clear what our differentiation is, what our strengths are. And that's what each one of you need to do, right? And many a times, for you, when you start your career, it's not, you've got to be able to adapt yourself as well. It's not that, I've decided what my passion is. I know what my goals are. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Like I said, I wanted to be in advertising, right? And I ended up here, but then this has turned out to be a fantastic career. Maybe I wouldn't have been as successful in advertising. I don't know. But it's about take what you have in hand, work hard at that, try and differentiate yourself irrespective of which industry or what you're doing, and be open to learning, and there's always success.
Thank you, sir. Initially, you were working on the India market, and later on, you were working on the other part of the Asia market. So we are just curious to know how was the other Asian market was different from the Indian market, and does any learnings from the Indian market was able to apply you in the Asian market? So could you share with us those things?
Yeah. all of these markets are different in the sense cultures are different, practices are different, people you meet are different, but you can definitely and absolutely apply the learnings you have from one place and apply it to another. Uh, each of these markets have their own nuances, but like I said, the primary reason why someone would buy from you remains the same. They need to trust you. They need to feel good about working with you. They need to feel good about buying from you, and they need to feel that they are making the right decision. They need to feel that they will grow in their careers or whatever they're doing by building a relationship with you. Uh, like like in a good marriage, right? You have to feel that you can live with your partner for a lifetime, and that's when they will buy with you. So that doesn't change irrespective of the market or the geography. um, the Indian customers are far more demanding. They will negotiate very hard. They can behave not so very nicely with you. They can keep you waiting outside their cabin for hours, for days. I've, in my initial days, for the sake of an order, been sitting outside a GM's cabin for a full day, and that was part of life. You accepted it, uh, and patience bore fruit for us in the Indian market. Uh, in the Australia market, it's different. You can actually tell a customer off for coming 2 minutes late. You can tell the customer on the face that your time is important and that you're upset that he walked in late for a meeting. You could do that in an Australia market. Um, in a Japan market, it's different. It's all about respect. No one will speak to you. No one will open the mouth. You will feel very nice that your presentation was well received, that no one had any clarifications, no one had doubts. But then once you reach the office, then you see a million questions filling your mailbox. So you know that you were useless in the meeting. Every Asian country is completely different. A Cambodia to a Singapore to a Malaysia. It all varies based on culture, but the underlying themes are pretty much the same. Yes, you have to learn what the local culture is. Like in India, right? A government customer, you would want to say hello at a tea shop. You have to speak to him in the local language. You can't walk in and speak to him in English, wear a tie. Like in Chennai, it used to be when I started off, wearing a tie meant you were a guy who sold vacuum cleaners. I wouldn't name the company, but you know. So we wouldn't wear a tie. Not wearing a tie, rolling up your sleeves, having a leather bag in your hand meant you were IT at that time. So you had a little bit more respect. Government was different, private sector was different, IT sector was different. So you behave differently, you adapted differently, and all these countries are no different. You have to be very sensitive culturally, do the right thing. But it's all basic common sense. End of the day, you just learn that as long as you are respectful to human beings, as long as you remain calm, as long as you want to listen and just not talk, which is probably the most important quality and the most difficult thing for many Indians to do, is to shut up their mouth and just listen to what your customer wants. Because most of the time what you realize is you went and met the customer, you were busy selling, you did not know what he wanted. And until you know what he wanted, you can't sell the right product, the right service, or the right combination of products and services, which is very important. So listening skill is very important, which is what I tell many of my team members: shut up and listen. Don't talk and disrupt or interfere when a customer is telling you. The more the customer talks, the more you know about what he wants, the better your solution can be. And that's the case everywhere, you know, even at home, whether it's your wife or husband, allow them to speak a little bit more, or your girlfriends and boyfriends, allow them to speak a little bit more, and you know what they want.
Oh, thank you, sir. So, keeping it really simple, can we know what brought you to Tech Mahindra?
Do you want the honest answer or the MBA answer?
Honest answer, sir.
Money.
Okay, now the MBA answer also, please.
The MBA answer. Okay, see, you've constantly got to experiment, have newer roles, do newer stuff. Especially for someone like me, I have to be out on the road. I have to interact with people. I have to do new things, and probably that's what is different from my father's generation to mine and your generation and the future generations is needs as a social animal is going to be different. Uh, my father or people of that age group are very happy working for one organization, remaining loyal to them. For us, loyalty means something slightly different. For the generation now, probably loyalty doesn't exist. In this, it's not that they're bad people. It has a different meaning. Uh, for me, loyalty is as long as I work for someone, I'm very loyal to them. It does not mean that I've written my life off to them. For the generation today, probably loyalty is as long as they like something, to a person, to a product, to a pet animal. Loyalty is probably the brackets are smaller, the box is smaller. So when it came, so what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to justify the reasons why I've moved. I've not actually moved as many companies. The minimum I've stayed with the company is 2 years, but most of the companies I've stayed at least 10 years, HCL 10 years, now 10 years. So I'm not one of those guys who jumps jobs that often for the sake of money. Yes, money is important, but the 10s and 20s are not important, right? You don't switch careers for small amounts. Because to build a career, you need to be somewhere. Your basement has to be strong. The organization has to trust you. Your team has to trust you. You have to build a team. You have to build a name for yourself in the market. And you will never be known as an individual in the market. You will always be known as a Sangeeta from Microsoft, as a Gyani from Tech Mahindra, as a Rahul from a Wipro, right? That's how you build a name. It's associated with something. And that name and that association has to mean trust to the customer. So you have to stay around for long. Otherwise, people are just going to take you for granted. You will never be the trusted person within your organization. That is one. But why did I change to Tech Mahindra? I don't have a very specific answer. At that time, my boss moved from HCL to Tech Mahindra, and he took me along. It was a mix. Obviously, money was absolutely very important for me. And like I said, it was not for the 10s and 20s. It was bigger than that. So that was exciting. But it also was exciting because it was a new market. At that time, I was based in Hong Kong. Australia was a new, exciting market. The role was different, so it meant I could do great things. For the last 8-9 years, it was a fantastic run for me in Australia. Made a name for myself, my company, and for my team. But again, you hit a plateau somewhere, right? And you run out of ideas somewhere. At least I ran out of ideas. I wanted to do something else now, so I've taken this new role within Tech Mahindra. You either change the role or you change the company. I had the opportunity to change the role, change the geography, do something different. So I'm doing that now. Yeah.
So you have done MBA in sales and marketing, and based on that, and also you are into the business-to-business platform. So based on that, if how important is the marketing in the B2B platform, and how important is the marketing for the Tech Mahindra?
I hope you know the difference between sales and marketing.
Yes, sir.
You do. I'm a sales guy. I don't consider myself a marketing guy. I'm not marketing. Even within the company, we are not considered as marketing guys. We're considered as sales guys. The marketing function is a different function. The marketing function is as important. Sales function is important. Marketing function is seen as a supporting function to sales, at least in our industry. It's an enabling function that helps sales guys be more efficient, win more deals. The importance of sales or marketing is the same as in any other company, only the ratio might be different, right? For example, if you work for a Sony, maybe marketing is more important because there's a lot more advertising. You decide what media and how much in each media, And the sales guy is not going to talk to the customer as much. He's more talking to his distribution channels, dealers and retailers, right? Whereas here the sales guy is a little bit more on the face. I am on the ground talking to my customers constantly. The marketing team is doing a bit more of events and generation of news and positive vibes for my customers. Many a times it could be things, and it's all very different. For example, I get my marketing team for me to focus more on getting closed door breakfast events where I bring 3 or 4 of my customers together. And I bring an industry leader in, I bring an industry advisor in. But I try to create an ecosystem of my own customers for myself, where we talk about various things, new technologies, how I can bring value to their business, those kind of stuff. Getting ourselves into a Gartner Magic Quadrant, how do we progress in that Magic Quadrant? How do we participate in industry forums? So like I go and participate and try and force myself to become a speaker in industry forums. Therefore, show myself as a guy who can add value to my customers' business. So it is very important. Shape and form of what sales and marketing does for each one of us is different. It's different for a consumer product versus for someone like us. And these days, I don't know, I think B2B and B2C are still probably MBA concepts. I wouldn't restrict myself to saying I just do B2B because if you have to succeed, you have to think of the C. Many a times I spend a lot of time trying to understand what happens in the retail store, right? If my customer is a large retail giant, my solution has to talk about how I will change his life, how I will change his customer's life. What is his customer's experience? What will change for him? How will his buying pattern change? How will the interactions between my customer and his customer be different when they engage with me? So it's very important that your customer's end goal, aspirations, business, insurance company, or the agricultural farmer who needs a loan, and how would he do that, and how will he engage with the bank, and therefore how will I make a difference there, and therefore why am I the right service provider to build and run that solution for my customer. So you've got to find the right mix, and you have to be constantly be able to change that mix. You've got to experiment and you've got to change.
Okay, so now if we could ask a personal question. So can you please tell us about someone who had been a big influence on your life, and what has he taught you?
So I'm a bit of an arrogant guy when it comes to that. I personally have always told myself that I don't have a person who is my idol or who I idolize. I'm not being arrogant for the sake of being arrogant. I've just not happened to me that I've been involved by someone and I've considered him my hero. The last guy who was my hero was when I was in Standard 10, and Saddam Hussein was my hero. My mother still keeps telling me that I did not do well in class 10 because I spent a lot of time thinking about Saddam Hussein, and I did. I would visit libraries. I would try and understand how bunkers are built to prevent themselves from being bombed, to guns, to artillery, and I would create files, make drawings from books in the library. That was the last time I was really obsessed about someone. After that, I read, I gather, I meet people, I gather information, I learn. But it's, to me, it's just, I've just not said, this is the guy I want to be. I've always told myself, be yourself, and you're different. And you need to differentiate yourself out there. So I'm sure all of us, each one of you, are good and great in that sense. You really don't have to copy anyone or be anyone else. You have to find your own niche, your own mark.
Thank you for that
It could be
suggestion, sir.
different outlook, but yeah.
Yes, thank you for that suggestion, sir. So nowadays, everyone is concerned about data breach and data privacy, and few IT firms have been a victim too. So can you please tell us how secure is the data saved on the cloud?
It's as secure as anything else. It's garbage in, garbage out. As long as your policies, uh, your standards are good, you're safe. The cloud is no different from anything else. What is the cloud? The cloud is end of the day still a data center, right? When we go and build a dedicated environment for a bank, it's called a data center. When that is built by a service provider such as a Microsoft or an Amazon, it's called the cloud. End of the day, it's still a physical data center that you can see. You can walk through the aisles. You still need the same servers, need the same network security components to build the so-called cloud environment. So security postures and solutions are still the same. You still need to understand risks that are involved and have mitigation policies for those and build around it. As a person who still sells a lot of, I earn my bread and butter selling infrastructure and cloud services. It is all about making sure that the security around everything that you sell is strong and robust. It is as secure as you want to make it. So I don't see security as a separate concern. It was 3 years, 4 years, 5 years ago, not anymore. I don't think anyone anymore talks about security on cloud. At least when I'm selling in the market, that's not a conversation anymore. It is probably one of the most important conversations, but not because it is the cloud. Security is by default one of the top 3 conversations, but it doesn't matter if it's on the cloud or in a on-premise data center. Everyone realizes it's the same. Data is important. Data privacy, all of this are important topics. The policies and standards for each one of these areas are only getting stronger and stronger every day. It is becoming more and more important, especially with the current situation we have, and multiple links that are terminating within a data center are going up. So it is probably the most important conversation, but it's got nothing to do with it's the cloud.
Yes, sir. Today we have seen the IT innovation is very massive, and especially in this COVID-19 pandemic time, we have seen within a span of 3 to 4 months, there have been a massive adoption of the IT, and it has become like everybody's day-to-day life. Given this context, and how do you consider the IT education is very important part of curriculum in MBA? Because very few colleges have the IT specialization.
I don't think IT is any more education. It's a life skill. Like you would learn swimming, you would learn IT. And I think by default, the kids who come out of school and college today are IT educated, right? You don't need to know computers anymore. You already know what your way around, you know your way around gadgets. Most kids are coming in with basic coding skills. Coding is becoming part of school syllabus. So from a capability perspective, I think most kids who come out of educational institutions already have the capability. But it's important to know the application of all of this. And I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what the right mix is. I think the industry has been trying to get sort of their interest into the syllabus, but I haven't seen too much success. You'd pretty much see, every IT house has its own educational institution as well. Tech Mahindra has one. We have an engineering college inside our campus, which is called Mahindra Equal. HCL has multiple universities. Wipro has, everyone has their educational institutions, but we still struggle to find people with amazing skill sets that we can get billable immediately. For us, for all IT organizations, the assets, the products that are sell are people, right? It's our people that we sell. It's important that we have the best people, and those people have to become billable immediately. I don't want to hire you, and I don't want you to be sitting, getting paid by me, eating my food, and then not doing any work, not making revenue for me. I want you to start making money for me as soon as you join me. Is there a way of getting you ready for that? Probably yes, but we struggle to do that. That the whole attempt of aligning or having engineering institutions aligned to us is to try and get some of the knowledge and learning that you need to have into the course is what we're attempting to do. We are succeeding, but it's not a great success. So it is important, but I'm not sure how much we are succeeding, and I'm not sure what else we can do. I'm surely not the expert in that area. I wouldn't venture into trying to preach what you need to do.
So, given the IT space, what are the key considerations for an IT firm in the business to ensure that continuity of the business all the time?
Sorry, Rahul, your voice broke. I'm not sure if it was
Sure.
for me.
I'll repeat the question. Given the IT space, what are the key considerations for an IT firm to ensure business continuity all the time?
Pretty motherhood question. Business continuity is important, and we are always constantly planning for that and updating our environments and systems and testing for it all the time. It is not only in this current situation. It was always the case. Our customers, our banks and insurance companies and airlines and whoever else, I cannot afford not having disaster plans and business continuity plans, right? You don't want aircrafts falling off the sky. So it was always important. It was always important. It was always being tested. Right now, it's not different. It's just that something has happened that we were planning for. So I don't think anyone got shocked. Yes, everyone's in shock at the nature and scale of it. No one anticipated that the entire world would be shut down and at home. But then, from an IT systems perspective, there was always plans of what happens if something doesn't work. The backup was always there. Anyways, inside a data center, there's no one, right? In other good times, it's not that each one's hugging a server and a router and sitting inside the data center. No, you would typically never ever walk into a data center if everything was running fine. You would monitor it from somewhere else, and that continues to be the case. But now, yes, from a business continuity perspective, the people angle is also being planned for better. We have, obviously, these are new learnings, and we will learn and grow from here.
As we know, you are an avid traveler. You have been traveled to the various countries based out of the work or as a sabbatical. So if I may ask you, so what have been your learnings from those traveling, and what are the countries you love the most and why?
Unfortunately, most of the countries I travel, I don't get a chance to do any sightseeing. It's mostly in and out for meetings, or it's mostly because airport, hotel, customer office, hotel, back to the airport. So you really don't get too much of a chance to enjoy the local cuisine, culture, and whatever else. But you learn from every new experience. You learn from all these different cultures. I think what I've always appreciated the most is going to the most poorer countries and seeing how happy they are. I was shocked when I visit countries like Laos and Cambodia, Vietnam, who are considered a poorer nation than India. But you find that people are a lot more happier, a lot more cheerful, a lot more content. You don't find honking on their roads, which are worse than the roads in India, which are more crowded than the roads in India. The traffic is worse than what it is in India, but you still see they're still peaceful, they're still smiling at each other, they're still contented. So you just realize that sometimes it's not about how big or how powerful or how rich your nation is. It's about how rich your people are when it comes to culture and empathy and how they want to live life. So those are things that sometimes makes you think of it makes you think about these philosophical things. I'm not a very philosophical guy, but sometimes in these kind of countries, these kind of experiences shock you when you see the difference, the glaring difference between what you see in India and what you see in these countries. What you see when people don't have as much money but seem to be a lot more happier and content with life.
Thank you for sharing your experience, sir. We really appreciate it. So, if I may, considering your expertise in the infrastructure and the cloud business, what is your long-term foresee for the Tech Mahindra? Where you would like to see the Tech Mahindra in the IT space?
I wish we were able to answer those questions for ourselves. The norm in the industry now is plan for what's going to happen in 5 years, and you do not know what you will be selling in 5 years. Because we had no clue that we would be selling cloud solutions or stuff on the cloud that we are selling today. We did not know this 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we were still busy selling on-premise data centers, and we thought that was the future. It's upside down in 5 years, and I'm sure it'll be upside down in 3 years. So what we are planning or what we work on is how do we adapt ourselves as an organization? How do we cross-skill our resources? How do we make sure the learning is better and there's constant learning? How do we measure those learnings? How are we able to see what's going on in the market, adapt ourselves to those quickly? How do we adapt and bring in newer technology platforms? How are we working with our customers, reinventing ourselves as an organization? How do we make our organization more agile and not the traditional organization that works differently? How do we create different ways of working, more collaborative, more as one team rather than he's the database guy, he's the server guy, he's the application development guy, he's the Java guy. Not that anymore. How do we bring things together? How can your teams be more agile, learn faster, react faster, adapt faster? If you ask my view of what Tech Mahindra should be, Tech Mahindra should grow because I have Tech Mahindra shares and I hope and wish it grows and I grow with Tech Mahindra.
Thank you, sir. So as we are at the end of the session and had more questions to ask, but due to time constraints, we have to cut to chase. And before we let you go, for all the attendees watching and listening the webinar, what is the one thought or wisdom which you would like to leave us?
Is that a question to me? I thought I was going to ask you what was it that you learned or understood, or what opened your eyes today? Was I useful? Was the basic question. So yeah, I'd rather that a few of you all say what you liked about today or what you disliked about today. It doesn't have to be nice things at all. It can be things that you did not like or things that you want to debate about.
It was absolutely a positive one, a complete wisdom and complete, we got to know about your journey. It was a very pleasant thing. So for us who are listening to webinar, what would be the last thought or a word of wisdom that you would leave for us?
I definitely don't consider myself as someone who gives wisdom. That should be your own, of what you learn from different people. Like I said, I don't have an idol, and I don't think I'm I am capable of sharing wisdom. What I was sharing what I experienced and learned. If that some of it were words of wisdom, fantastic. Um, what I would leave with you is anyone can achieve. Um, your HOD will tell you that I was pretty much a normal, average student who did every other nonsense that every one of you probably would do. Bunked classes, created havoc in class, fought with people, argued. But at the same time, I was very passionate with whatever I did. I had a lot of self-confidence. I had no stage fear even from them. You could put me up on stage in front of 10,000 people, and I did not have a problem taking the mic and speaking. Uh, uh, I, I I was being arrogant even at that time, but I think that's what helps. You need to be confident about yourself. You should know that you can succeed in any field. It's not necessary that that you don't get your dream job and therefore you've lost everything in life. It's not that case. Uh, uh, you can come from anywhere and do anything. Like I said, I was one of the few non-engineers in class, but I doubt if any of the engineers in my class can have a debate with me on technology today. So life can change as long as you're willing to change, you're willing to adapt, you're willing to learn, you're willing to spend the time and make the effort to learn, and you're confident about yourself. Uh, yeah, it's it's not that to give you something to give you an example of something that you might understand. You might like that boy or that girl in college. It's not that you did not get to marry that person, your life got destroyed. You still live your life, you're still very happy. So similarly, as long as you take what comes to you and you decide that you want to be the best in that, you will be absolutely successful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It was an honor interacting with you. And on behalf of Department of Management Studies and the Gnanashanker College of Engineering, I thank you for your time and I thank you for your words. Thank you for your suggestions. We'll always remember and we'll keep moving on no matter what. Thank you so much for your time, sir.